G'day and welcome back to Kick, Pass, Discuss. This is our second episode for this podcast.
We are your hosts. My name is Jax.
And I'm Kieren. Today in our podcast, we'll be discussing upcoming games, injuries, our tips, and more.
But first, Kieren, let's just talk about that Rabbitohs and Knights game on Sunday after our last podcast.
Oh yeah, we missed that one. South Sydney will need to pay for that loss. The Knights were just in control the whole game, weren't they, Jax?
Yeah, lately they've just been going so much better after their, let's just say, not so desirable start to the 2023 NRL season.
I totally agree with you on that one, Jax. Now Newcastle may actually be a bit of a threat as we look towards the finals.
I actually watched the game back, the Knights game. They weren't as bad as what people make out.
This will bring the crowd right into the game early here. Clune and Ponga, lovely sharp work. That is as good a left side attack. I'll say that's South Sydney at their best. Ponga fielding the ball to bring it back. There's the skip. He's around Graham again. Ponga.
But anyways, like we said, let's talk about our injuries now in NRL.
We looked at this in a bit in the last episode, but first I want to mention Mitchell Moses.
Honestly, Jax, let's just not mention that. Maybe the cause of Para not winning last week.
Now we gotta mention it, Kieren. Besides, Para played hopeless anyways.
Yeah, I guess you're right, but so far, for any of our listeners who obviously don't know about Mitchell Moses, he has suffered a broken eye socket against the Broncos when he tried to make a tackle but kind of missed it and fell on his face.
Yeah, that's true. But he's out for 6 weeks now, which is kind of sucks. It probably won't matter anyway since the Eels might be gone. It's going to take a miracle for them to get in the top 8.
Yeah, you're right. Now also on the note of injuries, I thought that I would mention that Sea Eagles star Ruben Garrick has also suffered a fractured back from a tackle against the Warriors.
Ooh, that's got to be bad. He'd be out for quite a while.
Yep, that's what you think, but for some reason he's actually been named on Manly's bench for next week, for their next game against the Bulldogs, I believe. So I'm not sure if it's an error, because he's got a broken back, but we'll see anyways.
That's a bit strange, but we wish both Mitchell and Ruben the best. Now, since this is only the second episode of our podcast, let's just make sure everyone is currently updated on the latest NRL news.
Sure thing, Jax. First of all, if you haven't heard, Des Hasler will be taking over as coach for the Titans next year.
That'll be interesting. I hope that'll be good for the Titans. Also on the agenda, Manly is starting to regret signing Josh Schuster as a disappointing performance with him.
Really? I thought it was like a young star, not that bad.
Turns out, Schuster's been underperforming for the last couple seasons, and his teammates don't like his unreasonably high salary, but his contract lasts until 2027.
Yeah, right. $800,000 isn't really worth that.
So now these were his stats from the weekend. 26 minutes, 0 runs, 2 possessions, 1 error, and 7 tackles. Gordy, thoughts on this?
Well, it's harder not to have a run than have a run in the back row. So for him to come on the field and not do that, I've said it before, there's not much that he can't do on the footy field. He could potentially be the best back rower, ball playing like a Gavin Miller style.
Lastly, on the topic of NRL news, I just want to make sure it's clear that a few weeks ago, the protest thing where all the players would go to interviews, etc., putting tape over their NRL signs on their jersey, that's all been resolved.
Well, that's all for the news. Let's have a look at this week's upcoming game and then afterwards our tips.
Sure thing, Jax.
Game 1, we got Para vs Penrith. That'll probably be boring, if you know what I mean, Kieren.
Then for game 2, we have Warriors and Dragons. Look, that will probably go to the way of the Warriors, but I feel like if the Dragons show their performance that we liked against the Storm, they could possibly show up and turn an upset.
Then we have the Dolphins and Cowboys.
That one may actually be alright. Look, the Cowboys are at risk. If they lose this game, they honestly might not make the finals anymore.
Then we also have the Storm and Titans, which Storm need to win to secure their spot in the top 4.
Yep, and then for Game 5, we have the Roosters and the Tigers, and for Game 6, we have the Raiders and the Broncos.
We also have the Sea Eagles for Game 7. Reminder, Ruben Garrett will be out, and this last game is huge. Sharks and Knights, the Sharks need to win for top 4 spots, but the Knights are showing some form at the moment.
It sure will be a great one, won't it? But yeah, that'll be on Sunday. And anyway, now I believe it is time that we put in our tips for the games that we have just discussed.
Yeah, so who'd you get for the first 2 games, Kieren?
First 2 games, gotta be kind of obvious, Panthers and Warriors. And you?
Yeah, I gotta agree with you.
How about games 3 and 4? I'll actually be going for a Dolphins upset over the Cowboys, because like I said, Cowboys, are actually stuck at the moment, and then also the Storm over the Titans.
That's interesting. I guess I'll go the same again. Games 5 and 6, I'll be tipping the Roosters and the Raiders.
Same here, except for the Raiders. Yeah, I'll just stick with the Raiders, but Broncos will probably win that anyway. And for the last 2 games, I'll actually say the Bulldogs for another upset, just because Ruben Garrick is out and just in general Manly are going a bit down lately. But yeah, because Ruben Garrick's out, I'll go Bulldogs. And then also the Knights, because like you said, Jax, they're showing greatness lately.
Yeah, I'll also be going for the Manly and Knights. But now, we are heading to the end of our second podcast.
Sadly, you're right, Jax. But we will definitely be back again on Sunday. We will be reviewing all the games and also our tips, plus more, so make sure not to miss that on Sunday.
Also, make sure to follow this podcast on Spotify and subscribe to our YouTube channel, which will be in this podcast description.
And before we finish up, you can also send us a Q&A on Spotify. So we'll get it on our podcast site, and then we might next episode or in a few weeks we'll read out some Q&A questions from you guys.
Q&A will also be on YouTube, but yeah, thanks for tuning in. We'll be back on Sunday.
That's right.